morning.
What do you have to start?
Okay.
I'll go nice first.
You want to go nice first?
Yeah, I'm going to go nice. Start
Okay.
off nice.
Good.
So I can't believe I didn't mention it last week, probably because I was so busy thinking of other things. But so my daughter had, you know this, but my daughter had a baby girl, Drew, and I'm going to go visit her today for a few minutes before I go on the ice.
Yeah.
And she's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how you can see this little thing and just, I forget, like Charlie's only 15 years old. And it made me sadden a bit because I was thinking of Charlie. That's
Yeah, for sure.
it's the closest thing I've ever been to. Is Charlie boy.
Yeah.
And so Drew came along, and she's just the cutest little thing. It's amazing.
Oh man, the babies are super cute.
Super cute. I love babies. I that might surprise people.
It surprises me actually a little bit.
All babies like me.
Yeah. How much when like you go into playful Andy, which we're all
Yeah.
very familiar. Well,
Yeah.
I am at least.
Yeah.
But when it's the best is like because they don't know one thing about anything.
It's amazing.
They know nothing about anything. And the watching, well, you'll get to see it again now, is over the next like few years as they start to learn things, how amazing it is that they learn things.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I say this whenever this topic comes up, it's because it absolutely boggles my mind is how kids learn how to speak.
Yeah.
Like learning language, how they'll learn the rules of like using tense correctly, like past tense, present tense, whatever. They know how to follow the rules of the language without ever. They didn't take a class. They didn't do none of that. Yeah. And it's just all the little things like that. They start to learn certain things, learn how to point, learn how to grab things, learn how to make sounds. It's just, it's so cool, man. It's unbelievable.
It was great because I saw her and I picked her up the first time. And it's like, come on. You forget. So you forget she was a 7 pounds and something, right? Like I eat hamburgers bigger than this. Right? So I grab her and I'm like, you just fall in love, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so her eyes are closed and her big cheeks and she's just breathing. You could hear the breathing. And like you said, she's just right out of the oven.
Yep.
Right? She's right out of the oven. And then she wrestles a bit and then one eye opens.
Yeah.
And not that she can see you or anything like that, but one eye opens and it's just like this thing of beauty that comes out. It's like, and then she hears noises and you see her eyes going like, she can't even process what is going on, but you can just see her eyes going like, what's going on?
Right.
Right. She's never seen this, never felt this, never smelt this. She never smelt this, that's for sure. But, like it's amazing.
Interesting fact. Well, might be a kind of fact. My brother told me this. He was a biomed major in school, so he's a little more into
smarter than us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to dance around it, but yeah. So we were talking about similar topic, and he was saying how this, I could be butchering this, so whatever, but it's more or less it's right. He was saying that babies, when they're first born up until like several months into existing in the world, they don't know that things exist outside of their field of vision.
Okay.
So,
well, how could they?
Right.
Like you're saying, like the kids, what if there's planes that fly?
So
of course not.
No. So it's like if you play peekaboo with a baby, right. So like you cover your face.
Well, they think it's the funniest thing ever.
But they actually think you're gone. Like they don't, like they don't know that you're still there.
Really?
Like they legitimately don't know that, right? So you cover your face, and you can see on their face if like other people watching, they actually get like worried. They're like, where'd he go? And then you pop back, and then you're there. And then they're like, oh, like there you are. They don't realize.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? So if I'm a little off, whatever, you get the idea.
Imagine if you're totally off.
Yeah, like totally not, right? They know
Kids
everything.
Sit there go, no, it's a stupid joke.
He's got a Morgan Freeman voice narrating in his head the whole time. So,
but peekaboo.
Yeah,
I love doing it with it. I love it. It's the best because what was it? What got you?
Of course you love peekaboo. You 52-year-old man. So good. Peekaboo.
I do. I love it because I get very animated. Eh? To see them just like laugh because you showed up again. I think I like it more than the kid.
100%. That's why I'm laughing. You're doing it for you, not for the kid. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyways, I love her, man. She is so cute. I just love her. And it's a different perspective for me because the other three, we're raising them. So you're busy raising them, right? You enjoy it.
Yeah.
but you also want to slap them and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You enjoy it, but this is so different because, like, it's the old thing. Your grandparents are great because I can't believe I use that word.
Yeah.
You get them and then you can leave them, but that's not how I look at it. I look at it as like I get them, and it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing, and I'm gonna have a different perspective.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be able to like hold her hand and walk with her little curly blonde hair and stuff like that, and talk and be like just a good dude to her.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna enjoy this because it's so amazing. I've said this to my wife. I can't tell you how many times I would do anything. I think to just go back and have my son at that age for just give me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just at 3 years old for 2 minutes, like just to go back and just give me those cheeks, kid.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you had something you wanted to say before we got into
yeah.
shit.
We'll get into that. Hopefully, I get to meet her though. I want to meet the
You
whole
will. Yeah, you
girl.
will.
So yesterday,
Mhm.
had the last group, the 07 group in here before you went on the ice.
Yeah.
An interesting thing happened. So let's take a little more deeper turn here.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the workout, and you came out of the office to me to ask me about one of the kids that's in the 07 age group. And you've asked me about a few between like the Windsor and Sun County teams.
Yeah.
And it kind of dawned on me because I'm in the middle of training with this group, and you come out and ask me a question like that. And I was thinking, I was like, man, none of these kids know that just happened. Right. So what happened, just for some context, you were talking with somebody who's pretty connected in the NHL world.
Yeah.
And already asking about a kid who's a 2007 born, which is not even his draft year yet.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen.
Exactly. And people say, and I remember people used to say this when I was young, and I give my dad a lot of credit because this was something that actually shaped a lot of how I behave, is how someone's always watching. You never know who's watching, right? You always got to be on because you don't know who's watching, especially if you're someone who's trying to get recruited for something. It doesn't even have to be a sport, like a job or whatever. You don't know who the person is that's going to help you to get where you need to go, because that's what life is. Life is people helping people get to where they want to go, you know, and you need a network to be able to get where you want to go. There's no way around it. Like people think you can do it on your own. You can't.
Yeah.
And so I brought the guys in at the end of the workout just to tell them what happened, because I was like, it's easy to...
Did you use a name?
No.
Okay.
No. I didn't use any names. It was just like the principle was what I was getting at, right? I was just saying...
Which is good for them to hear.
Yeah. So I just said, I was like, all you guys say you want to be hockey players, and some of you do, some of you don't, but all of you say you do. And people will tell you all the time, like, you never know who's watching. Like, you don't know who's around or who's going to make an impact on you in your career if you trying to be a hockey player. So I just said, while you guys were working out, Andy came out and he was talking to somebody who was asking about an 07 born. And I didn't use any names, and I said on both teams, because that's actually true.
Yeah.
And I just said the point is not who they're asking about or whatever, even though I know you guys are going to focus on that a little bit. But the point is, you don't know who around you is going to be someone that can have an impact on you. So me, for example, I'm relatively close to you guys in age, and we come in, we goof around, we work out. To the guys we're training. I was like, you come in, we goof around, we're trying to work out, we're whatever. And I might not be someone who you think could have an actual impact on where you go and what you do. But look at what happened. A guy calls Andy, Andy asks me, and he's asked me a few times because I've been at some of the games watching. And then he relays the message back to the people he's talking to.
Yeah.
And there's an example of you walk in here and you're just like, well, I'm just at my workout with my buddies hanging out. And it is that, but it's also the people that come through PowerTech are actually people that are like parts of major teams, whether it's OHL, NHL, whatever.
Yeah.
And we talk because people talk, and so it was just a good little example that I wanted to give them about you have to always be on, man. And you're immature kids, like you're just hitting puberty right now. Like it's not really fair necessarily that every single thing you do is going to be watched and be talked about for the most part.
Yeah.
And so you have to be aware of that. It's easy to forget. It's easy to get into like just the routine of what you're doing and take for granted what you have going on. But at the end of the day, it could just be one moment where you do something and someone saw it or somebody was paying attention, and doesn't even necessarily have to be how you behave.
Yeah.
But it just takes the one, good or bad, just takes the one, so it was just a good little message. So I thought that was a nice thing to get your thoughts on.
So that surprises me because that surprised me that you had that talk with them.
Mhm.
Not because you had a talk with them. It surprised me because of the way they were on the ice last night. They weren't good.
Really?
They were not good.
Very interesting.
So I pulled them in a couple times. I said, okay, listen, I'm not giving you guys shit. I'm explaining a couple things on what I expect from you and your execution. And like, so one of the things we really work on, and it's funny, we just talked about passing last week and stuff. And it's like, and it's a skill that it just seems like it's just whatever. Whatever. So I was looking at a couple of the drills. Like, so now for the average guy watching a practice, I probably thought that was a great practice. But for me, the standard's a lot higher, right? So I was looking at when you're doing a drill, does the intensity have to go down because you have to think? Because we're doing a couple timing, passing drills and stuff like that. But like all the technique and all this stuff, it's just not there. Like I can tell that they're just like whatever, coach, like whatever. And I don't like to sit there and say, do you guys know who I train?
Right.
They know, and I don't like to do that. I don't like to. I like to gain respect because I'm doing a good job.
You've
now.
earned it. Yeah.
Right. So I had to call them in a couple of times and just not give them shit, but explain hockey to them and intensity. Like you're allowed to move your feet. You're allowed to think. Like don't just go and do drills and stuff like that. Like you said, people are going to ask me. Well, there was the one scout that called me a couple of weeks ago about he wants to watch that whole group of kids, and I said, yeah, I'll give you the book on every one of them. And it's amazing how they forget, or so that's one thing. So at the end of the session, I had just a couple minutes left, and I designed it so I can just talk to them for a second. And I said kind of not what you said, but I said, guys, listen, man, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't want you to say, oh, because you did those guys, but that's the reality.
Yep.
That's the reality, and to be on the ice with me, there's a certain level, and then I have a certain expectations. And if you don't want to meet that certain level, like I don't want to train you. I said, because honest to God, the thing is, I want you to actually be a really good hockey player, and I want to enjoy doing it. But the funny thing is like, I remember Charlie and going into minor bantam. He might have been major bantam. He was like maybe a little bit different breed because he was like this was him, like
he was in the PowerTech
hockey. And he says it right now. He goes, "Dad, you helped me so much, even to this day." But it's just a weird age because you're still trying to be cool. You're still trying to, talk and on the ice and have fun, and you have to have all that stuff. But there's a time where you have to dial it in. And for a lot of them, if someone was asked me about them, I'd say, yeah, he's a good kid. He's all right. Is he dialed in as a hockey player? Yeah.
Right.
But people are always watching, and it's weird because there's a certain age where it kind of maybe it kicks in and maybe it never does. I don't know. I still don't know.
Well,
but sorry, one more thing.
Yep.
The other thing is, just for people listening, because I don't want the message to be taken the wrong way. When you said you talk to them, someone's always watching, and you always have to be dialed in. Yeah, you do. And that's what I said to them. I expect everybody here wants to go somewhere. They all said yes. So that's the caveat. Is that the word?
Oh, well, caveat. And that's what I said that exact thing to them too.
Yeah.
I said, all you guys say you want to be hockey players, whether you do or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just, if you don't care, and I said that, if it doesn't matter, then you don't have to listen
That's
to us.
different.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But I'm assuming...
We treat you as if you want to go somewhere.
Right.
And that's the right way to go.
Yeah. You're training with the elite of your age.
Yeah.
And verbally, you are saying to us that this is something you want. Now, what your actions show are different than what you say, or they're the same as what you say, but that's what people are going to judge you on, your actions. Nobody cares what you said. Everyone, when I was a kid, I played Windsor AAA, and one year we had a magazine thing that we came out with, a team. It was like a picture day, whatever, and we had on the pages was the picture of the kid and a little bio and whatever when we were like 12. And one of the last there was like the standard thing they do with hockey players: what's your favorite food, favorite movie, whatever. At the bottom, what you want to be when you grow up. 95% was I want to play in the NHL.
Everybody.
You know how many on my team played in the NHL?
Yeah.
Zero. Not one.
Less than zero.
Yeah. So for these kids that are saying that, the kids that are saying that, it's like I said, it's an unfortunate reality that we are 14 and you're already getting calls for people asking about them.
Yeah. And
you're just at a disadvantage. If you don't realize that you need to be serious when it's time to be serious, then you're just at a disadvantage. And to go back, when we talked about like the partying thing and people were giving us heat, like, oh, you're saying you can never have fun or whatever. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that. It's about when it's time to be serious, you have to be serious, and you have to pick your spots. And that was something that, even having not made it, that was something that I give my parents. My dad my dad especially a lot of credit for that, because that was something that they drilled into me when I was a little kid. Like, there's a time to be a jackass and there's a time to not be a jackass. Well, like, watch your mouth, like, watch how you're behaving. Make sure you're paying attention to people that have authority over you in whatever situation, because then you're the kind of person that people want around. So even if I know for me, if people ask me about some of these guys and they say, what's the deal on this kid? What I would say, if there's somebody who is listening and trying and giving good effort and whatever, I would say they're a decent player, but they really listen. They're really coachable, and they really actually try to get better. So if you, it might be a kid you take a chance on, or it might be a kid you give an extra look or an extra opportunity or whatever, because it's a kid that looks like he could do something, you know? And with some of these other guys, and it's not just that 07 group, it's with all the guys that
it's every age.
It's every age.
Yeah, for sure.
It's when you guys come in here, anywhere. It could be your class. It could be at school. Like, they, something that these people say that you have to watch out for. They might ask your teachers in school, like, how you're doing. And do they always ask your teachers about you? No, they don't.
A lot of scare tactics.
Yeah, it's a lot of scare tactics.
At the end of the day, they want a good hockey player.
But the principle stands, though. They're going to ask somebody about you.
100%.
And you don't know who the somebody is, whether it's your coach or your assistant coach or a dad on the team who knows a guy that's asking. Like, you don't know, right? And so you just have to be aware of how you're conducting yourself.
Well,
when you're in front of
we were
people.
talking a couple of weeks ago, like, I could have taken this podcast a lot of different ways. Could have been jackass.
Yeah.
So think about that, because teams knew who I was.
Right.
They'd interview him and me, and there's a little bit of respect. But what if I could have made it hard for my kid if I was jackass Andy on my podcast.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that kid's probably going to be a jackass and stuff. But yeah, people are watching all the time, man. It's crazy. It was just, speaking of that again, is people say they want things, but do they really? That's a Steve Ott line that Charlie has on his shadow box that you made from right. And so we were just having that little conversation last night. So going back to the players, like, if you don't really want it and do the things to get there, then you're probably not going to be so dialed in.
Yeah.
So when the hockey players say that they want it, everyone says they want to play in the NHL, everybody. But then you got to go through it. And one more thing on that note is you said take it for granted. So really funny. So my son is suffering right now, and we'll call it an injury, right? And he's been playing through this since October 5, and he's been playing pretty good. But now he has to be off it's going to be a minimum of 2 weeks, and so he called me and he was just devastated. So why is he devastated? He's devastated because he's just getting on a really good roll, getting comfortable. Like, the league's becoming, I'm not saying it's getting easy, but he goes, Dad, I find I'm good now in the OHL, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it. And he goes, like, so it's a setback, it's a thing. But my point of this is, I said, so remember, Charlie, how many times I've told you, you never ever appreciate what you have until it's actually gone. Or taken away a little bit, right? So you could go to the rink and get in a routine of, okay, I get up and I go to school and I go to the rink, and is my stretching and my dynamic workout actually dialed in? Is my nutrition actually dialed in? Because maybe these things could have, and I know it is, but is it 100% or is it 80%?
Well, I mean,
mentally on the ice, is it every shift, every practice, every shot? Like, it because when it's taken away, it's like you always will go back and say, maybe I could have did better. And nothing about that was like because he wasn't.
Well, but it doesn't matter. He could be doing better. It doesn't matter, right? 100%. So he could have dialed in more in some way, because he's a kid and the kids have to learn. And that's my point in bringing all of this up.
Yeah.
It's an unfair expectation to have on a kid.
Yes.
But it's too bad, because that's the point. Like, you have to do it. This is when you're getting judged. This is when people are picking you.
Yeah.
And that's, we come back to this message a lot. It's like, it doesn't matter what you say about, life balance and all these, you need to hang out with your friends and you need to have a good social life and like all this stuff. It doesn't matter what anyone says about that.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you want to move on to higher levels, all that stuff has to be a minimum, and all of the hockey related being dialed in stuff that we talk about all the time has to be maximized. It has to be optimized. It has to be 100% dialed in, or as close to it as possible, because it's that hard. It's just that
the
hard.
Window's right there. It's just a small,
you know what I mean?
window.
You have a very small window, and if you're somebody who doesn't get picked early or noticed early, then you're behind. You feel like, even if you're not, you feel like you're behind the 8 ball trying to catch up now, and that's what happens with every single kid who, they're devastated after the OHL draft. Now they need to scrape to try to make a junior team. Then they don't. Then they have to play midget, and then they're trying to work. They feel like they're working against the grain now all the way up. So if you can get yourself ready earlier and have a little bit more maturity about yourself earlier, then you'll be that much better off. And just to wrap on this, again, it's just to be totally clear. It's not saying you can't be a kid.
Yep.
We're not saying that you need to be a robot. That's not what the point of this is.
Yep.
But you have to be aware that when you're at a workout, at practice, at a game, at a restaurant, hanging out with your buddies, you have to be aware that there's people around,
Yep.
And people see you.
Yep.
And, I ran into a few weeks ago, one of the kids that was here, his younger brothers also plays triple A's, maybe 12 or 13 or something.
Right.
And I think it was a Friday, almost Friday night. And he was on his bike with his buddies, and I bumped into him I was getting gas, and he lives around where I live, and he was with some of his buddies, some of his friends, just bumming around the corner store, and I'm getting gas, and I just happened to bump into him.
Yeah.
And I see this kid.
Can I just take a guess?
If you want.
Was he up to no good?
I don't know.
They could seem that way?
I don't. Right.
Okay.
This is what I'm getting at, right? So you're on your bike with your backpack. It's starting to get dark out, and you're at a gas station with a bunch of kids, boys and girls, at a gas station, and it's dark out on a Friday.
Yeah.
And maybe you're doing nothing. Maybe you're just on your bike with your buddies, right? You could just be hanging out. But I'm just like, what do you have in your backpack, man? You know what I mean? Like I know. And is that unfair of me? Maybe.
What do you have in your backpack though?
But this is
because there's been several kids that I've asked, what's in your backpack? No, nothing.
That's right.
Why do you have a backpack?
Yeah.
I don't carry a backpack.
Yeah. When I'm on my bike, why do I have a
Charlie
backpack?
always said that. He goes, why do they get backpacks? He knows why, but he goes, Dad, they all have backpacks.
So, and this is what I'm saying. And the last point that I wanted to bring up is, people say when it comes to being judgmental or something like that, right? Like you shouldn't judge other people. You shouldn't. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? As humans, all we do is judge other people because we need to figure out, is this somebody who I should be around or not? Is this somebody...
Told my wife tells me that. I say, I judge everybody.
Well, yeah, but and there's a difference between...
Everyone.
And there's a difference between looking at people and thinking less of them and whatever.
No, I know.
Based on their behavior, that's fine. But if you're going to say that you're going to look at somebody and not judge what they're doing,
you're judging them.
Every single human is doing that.
Yes.
And I don't care what anyone says.
Everyone's
about that.
a scout.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be. If you're mom and dad, you're judging who your kid's hanging around with, no matter what. If you're the kid, you're judging which guys you think you get along with and which kids you don't. You're always making
judging
judgments.
your dad when he tells you to work hard and dial it in. You're judging him because he's got a wife beater shirt with a mustard stain, drinking a Budweiser.
Yeah, and that's what humans do.
That's what we do.
That's
what
we do.
Because if not, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
Right. So again, if your mom and dad or coaches listening or the kids, just you need to know that people are going to judge you.
Yeah.
And if you think, well, I'm just being me, like it's like nobody cares. About what you say about that, So
well, it's funny you said a word because there's another little thing I wanted to say, and it actually made a segue for me. It's called you said don't be judgmental. So what I get from that is people say things without thinking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All the time. So I'm gonna ask you, and I want you to right away give me the answer. Okay. This is a term that I'll just say the term first. Everything happens for a reason. Tell me what you think.
Bullshit.
Okay, so you're thinking the way I interpret it. So let me just say this, okay? So I was my wife used to say it, and I hear people say it all the time, and I told my wife, because it's a positive statement, right? It sounds good. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah. So I always said I don't believe that for 1 second. But just this morning, I was thinking about it a little bit more, because I was listening to NHL Network, and there was a player speaking, and he said, and he wasn't scoring goals, whatever, and he goes, but it'll come, everything happens for a reason. I go, that's so stupid. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe the intent of that saying was everything happens for a reason, meaning there's a consequence for your actions, but the way people use it now, it's like something goes wrong. It's like, well, everything happens for a reason. It's like, no. So I told my wife like years ago, I said, I use the words, but I changed the words. I go, there's a reason everything happens. Now there's a consequence. So like if you lose your house as an adult, there's a reason it happened. Not everything happens for a reason. The stars didn't align and said, well, let's just teach him a lesson here and he'll learn from it. No. it happened for a reason. You were probably well, you could have lost your job or whatever, but you weren't able to do whatever it is. You didn't make the NHL. Well, everything happens for a reason. Well, that's a dumb statement actually.
Mhm.
It's no, the reason it didn't happen is let's go and reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So
Well, the amendment to what I would actually say when someone asks me that is, I would say it depends what you mean, right? That's there it is again, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the day, because it was actually an impactful moment when I started to think, because I always thought like that, like everything happens for a reason. I
Yeah, it
took for
doesn't.
granted that's, and I remember the day that I changed my mind on that. In that moment, thinking like, that's a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
It's like,
didn't put the work in.
there's
You
no
didn't-
action. Like there's no
That's
action.
right.
You're waiting. Everything happens for
Yeah.
you're just waiting for it to manifest itself.
Yeah, that's
like-
that's
yeah.
the way it comes across
That's right.
all the time.
And I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I believe everything happens for a reason if you're taking action to get the outcome.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not as easy as just like everything happens for a reason.
No.
And I got in another discussion with somebody about this exact point a few years later. I remember we were at a cottage with a bunch of my buddies and somebody who was there. It was the same kind of interaction, and they were saying that they said that just, oh, I think everything happens for a reason. And I remember I ended up grilling this person about it. I was like, do you actually think that's true?
Yeah.
Like, what do you actually think about that? Like, let's actually dig into that for a second. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And obviously you dig 3 questions deep on that, and they didn't put a lot of thought into what that means, right?
Yeah.
And
Sounds nice though.
yeah, and it sounds nice, and I'm against
Yeah.
like platitude bullshit like that. It's like what are you actually saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what does
yeah.
that actually mean? Is there any
Yeah.
substance to what you're saying, or are
Yeah.
you just saying things to say them that don't mean anything?
Yeah.
And that's definitely falls right in that category for me for sure.
Yeah. So I was going to talk a little bit about the podcast I did the other day for the Kitchener people.
Yeah.
But what you just said it was one of the questions they asked. Okay. So just remind me, Russia reading.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So guys, the other day, my brother, who's played in the OHL as well, played pro. He was a goalie, signed with Washington. He is a good friend with the play-by-play announcers and up in Kitchener for the Kitchener Rangers and stuff like that. So they asked if we would go on their podcast. My brother and I, you were around a little bit, to go on the podcast and speak about old OHL stories. So we went on this podcast and it was great. We spent 2 hours. They said this was awesome. But anyways, we were talking about old stories about hockey, and that's what they wanted to go through. And they found my brother and I very interesting. So like one of the things they talked about, and it's going to kind of talk into.
Sorry, do you want to give a little background on your brother too? Just people don't know.
Yeah, I think I did.
No, like playing and stuff.
Did I not say it?
No.
Okay, so he's 2 years younger than me. He grew up so like in this podcast, they were asking how do you become what you are. So my brother was 2 years younger with me, and by default, he became a goalie because I was a little kid with a hockey stick and rolled up bag of chips or sponge puck and all balls, and I'd throw them against the fridge or the wall, and I'd shoot pucks at him. And then we'd go downstairs and I'd shoot pucks at him. He became a goalie. He was a very, very good goalie. In fact, want to hear an unbelievable stat? Growing up, they had my brother, Sean Gauthier, and Richard Shalmistra playing AAA. Well, that's 3. One can't make it. Okay? So all 3, Richard was a little bit, like he was the one that always got cut, it seemed, except for 1 year, I think. The year they got drafted, Sean Gauthier moved away or went up, played at a different level. And my brother and Richard were the goalies on that team. This is unbelievable. Sudbury, Ontario, the 1971 birth dates. Sean Gauthier, Darryl Paquette, Richard Shamisha all played in the pro. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
Incredible.
From the same.
You can't
same
have
spot.
one from one place.
Yeah.
So Sean played I don't know if Sean played NHL games. He might have played 1 or 2. My brother played East Coast and with Washington's farm team. He's got records in the East Coast League, played in Portland, in the American League. And then Richard played a couple games or a little while with New Jersey.
Wow.
On the same team.
That's
One of those
crazy.
guys had to get cut every
Yeah.
year. That's impossible.
I know.
From Sudbury, Ontario, population of 6.
Yeah.
3 of them were goalies and 3 of them
So
played pro,
unlikely.
made money in hockey. Yeah, so
Yeah.
anyways, my brother was drafted 3rd round to the Cornwall Royals. Played behind Richard Tabaracci, who I played with on under 17s, same year as me. And then, let me see, then he went out east because things went kind of sideways his last year. Junior went out east. So if you ever think it's over, if you're done the OHL, it's over? No. He went and played 1 year Tier 2 in the East Coast. And then he went to the University of Cape Breton, Capers they were called. Terrible team. You get literally Said literally, he would get. I'd see the newspaper articles and stuff. He'd get 70, 75 shots a game. And then he was scouted from there and he signed with the Washington Capitals. So, like, the really good story is that he just worked hard, kept doing it, played because he loved the game, went to school, and he got scouted out of university, even though when everybody else thought it was going to be over.
Yeah.
Then he played, a bunch of years in the minors.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the story. So then, the play-by-play guys from Kitchener wanted to do a story on us, and it was great. They were talking about old hockey stuff. They wanted the old stories, right? And I was like, I don't like talking about this stuff, but I had a blast. So, what would they say? The old stories growing up. They asked about our household and growing up with a bunch of athletes. What's that like? So we had some funny stories. But a couple things that I liked that they talked about or they wanted us to talk about was our old coaches. And this ties into what we're actually going to talk about like for a little bit today is like the history of hockey, how things have changed so much. And that's what they said. They said, like, Andy, you played for Bill LaForge and Daryl, my brother, played for Orville Tessier and John Brophy, legends, right? And Mark Crawford. And so we were telling stories about that. And one of the points I said is, like they said, Bill LaForge, is it like, what was that like? And I said, well, because so if anybody knows or heard of Bill LaForge, you can look him up. People don't believe the stories. It was absolutely nuts. So I told them the story that my first training camp, we had T-shirts we were called the Hamilton Steelhawks, and PhD was one of his what do you call it? Slogans. And
Yeah.
PhD means
Acronym.
pride, hustle, desire. Good words.
Yeah.
It's with the nice, beautiful Steelhawks logo on it. On the back, Sergeant Slaughter. So he was a wrestler with a big chin and a big mustache, and he was pointing, like this is on the back of our T-shirt, pointing, saying, "Sergeant Slaughter's coming to get you." And then the other thing with that training camp, that imagine this. So you get a letter in the mail, and the heading on the top of the letterhead says that hand-to-hand combat is expected. Like today, that doesn't fly.
Right.
And then there's all these different stories about them, and I said, every one of them is true. Like I've seen most of them, and I was sitting around with Brian McDonald, who played in Hamilton, Pete Richards, who was a goalie when I played there, and Shane Corson, who played for him, and we were telling stories. This was in Sweden. And we were telling stories just amongst ourselves about the old days, and the people were sitting around that knew us. They're sitting there going, "No way!" I'm like, "Yeah, way." It was nuts.
Yeah.
And then they were asking stuff about the old barns, like what was so one of the questions was, what was your favorite arena?
Yeah, I heard this one. Yeah.
What was a Windsor arena like? Because this is where I live now, and I told them, I said, like, the Windsor Arena was my first road trip. It was Kitchener, Hamilton, Windsor. They were all, the Kitchener Auditorium is still the one they did a little fixing up. I said, but what the Windsor Arena was like, amazing, intimidating, crazy. The fans are on top of you. But my point to that was, I really miss those old rinks because hockey's changed so much. And like, so when I played in the 80s, in the junior rinks. So anyways, we were in Owen Sound on the weekend. I was watching my son in Owen Sound. It's like an older tin can rink.
Yeah.
It's nice though.
Yeah, I watched the game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like put together nice and stuff, but it's old and it's loud. And I told Charlie, I said, that's how I remember junior hockey for the most part. It was like the people were on top of you. It was nothing like totally glamorous. It was for the time, but it was like the scoreboards were Export A, Cigarette, or Molson Canadian. Everything was like old school, and it was like rough, and it was tough, and it was just like such a different feel. So there was like Hamilton, the Mountain Arena, like the glass. The same with Windsor. The glass was like this high. Sudbury Arena, the old Sioux Arena, the old Oshawa rink, Kingston. I didn't mind. Kitchener right now is awesome, but there's only a few rinks like that are around anymore. And the difference now is like I have a hard time watching a game live. Not my son, because I'm very invested in it, but Guelph's got a good rink too. It's more modern, but it's got an older feel to it. But it's like now it's like corporate. The NHL games is like corporate, quiet. The seats are set back. It's promotion, big score clocks, jumbotrons, music here, someone dancing in front of you here. It's like you don't get to watch the game, and then there's TV timeouts, all that stuff. It's like it's different. Whereas you go to these old barns, like in Owen Sound was pretty neat, man. It gave that old feeling. And I would go back to that in 2 seconds.
Well, it's like the pureness of the game
Pure
that you were
hockey.
talking about, right? It's just the hockey, like everything. We talk about this all the time too, like the outside. What like playing hockey inside the glass is what you like. You know, that's what you like about the sport. That's what, and I feel the same way. Like actually playing the game. Yeah. That's why pond hockey's so fun, man. Because you're just playing the game. Like that's all it is. You're actually just playing. And everything else, like the words you were using when we talked about the other day was just everything's overdone. You know, everything's it's too much. Like it's this big entertainment experience, and some people are into that and whatever. Just I'm not, and I want to watch the game. And it's funny because when now that I'm going back to watch a lot of hockey games, even if it's minor hockey, I kind of try to hide when I go to watch because I don't actually want to talk. I actually want to sit and watch the game. Hockey game. Like I'm trying to watch the game. So it could be when we go to see Charlie, or it could be when I go watch some of the kids I train or whatever. I'm actually trying to watch the game. Like that's actually what I'm trying to do. So if you're going to come and it's like social hour, and that's what it is for a lot of people. It's like an entertainment experience. And in another kind of venue, when I go to watch like a baseball game, it's more that for me. I'm more there like it's an entertainment experience because I don't care so much about the game. But when I'm at a hockey game, it's like I'm watching a player specifically or I'm watching a team specifically, and I just want to watch and actually see it because that's what I enjoy about the game. I don't like all the external. Not that I don't like it, I just don't care about it. Like
that jumbotron.
Yeah.
Like they interrupt you all the time. It's like just play a game.
Yeah, you know. So I totally know what you mean.
I really do miss it. I really do miss. I've seen a big change in it, and just the corporate part of it, and I mean everyone's got to make money, right? Everyone's got to make money, and there's sales all over the place.
Big money now, right? That's the thing. It's big money now.
Yeah, it's big money, or you lose big money.
That's right.
You know, you buy a junior franchise for 8, 10, 12, 18 million dollars. Like you got to make your money back, right?
Yeah.
And
so it's interesting that podcast that you did, it kind of because it ends up segueing itself into the topic
for a reason. Man.
So last week, I think it was last week.
No, it was the other day. Oh, last week.
Yeah, last week, going into the topic. I forget what sparked my initial comment. Do you remember?
Yeah, I said to you, you remember, did you know that there was a time when there was no backward passing?
Right.
But I was wrong. But I was wrong on that. It's forward passing.
But that you're right. That was the comment because I was thinking. So you mentioned that to me last week at some point, and I was like, think about the evolution of hockey. Thinking about back to when it started. Yeah. Who came up with that? Where did that come from? And how did it develop into the technology, like the skates, the sticks, the helmets that we're using now, the ice, all the, like you said, the overdoneness of how it's this huge money-making entertainment machine now. Yeah. Where the hell did that come from? And like who thought of going on ice in particular? Yeah. Whose idea was that? Because it's the only sport that's really like that. Everything else, it's like you're either on the field or in the snow. That's kind of what you're doing, whether it's skiing, snowboarding, to baseball, football, whatever. It makes sense you're on the ground. Yeah. Like, who thought about going on the ice? Yeah. So we started kind of talking about hockey back when it was first starting. And I remember watching they made a movie about Rocket Richard several years ago now, and I remember watching that movie, and they were showing how they used to play, but they had the chain mesh nets, and everything was outside because it was ice and whatever. So that's kind of how we started talking about it. So then you kind of did a little deep dive onto the.
Yeah, I did a bit of a deep dive. Like there's too much. I've only did one on the history of the NHL. Like, and it's like I'm going to be missing a bunch of stuff, but it was so cool. Yeah. Because my comment before you were going to say that, as I was going to say, in a much rougher way. Mm-hmm. How the hell did hockey start?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you really think about it, like, because you're thinking, like, who invented the game? Like, why this and why that, right? Like, how the hell did it start? Like, it's ridiculous. Why is there 5 guys on the ice? Why is there
the rules,
line,
like everything,
all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And when you look into it, it's freaking amazing. But who decided that we're going to put stick, puck, 5 guys on the ice, some nets, hammer each other, and this will be a game? Yeah. So I looked into it a bit. But, like, you ever think, like, we take it for granted so much right now, and I'm not trying to be like a historian because that's not what the frick. You might as well call me a librarian. I'm not, but it was really interesting because it's one of the questions that I've always kind of asked, like a puck. What the hell is a puck? Why a puck?
Yeah, think of that. Why a puck, not a ball.
No, not a ball, but it will make. I didn't do the puck thing, but
right.
I watched one documentary how pucks are made. What a dirty job this is. Oh yeah, yeah, it's freaking amazing. So I always said, like, who, this is amazing. How did people get into this stuff? What's a puck? What's a stick? Like, look at the sticks now. That's not what a stick was before. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. The skates, they evolved. Like, now it's like, I'll get into it. So
Yeah.
this isn't going to be real long, really,
Yeah.
but I think it's kind of interesting for, it's different than what we did. So how did hockey start? Like, that's a question. Some people say it started in Nova Scotia, Kingston, Montreal, whatever. So in this documentary that I watched, they made a reference that basically hockey started possibly in Egypt, Greece, Syria. Huh?
Right.
Well, yes and no. What they meant by that is that there was similar games, like kind of like a field hockey,
Right.
and they had sticks and balls. They played butt naked. That'd be kind of fun. Buck naked hockey, and that was like there because there's hieroglyphics or marble carvings that show that from history, right? So it's like, oh, okay, so hockey didn't start there, but there's something similar, right? And then, but they can trace hockey kind of close to starting in Scotland, believe it or not. So what happened was Scotland was obviously golf. Golf is their thing, right? So in the wintertime in Scotland, they would have rivers or ice fields or whatever, and people would knock around a ball, like dig little small holes. So
Okay.
there's pictures of them of people like playing. You go, yeah, what is it? Three people
winter
at a time?
golf.
Winter golf. So they
Yeah.
knock a ball around and put it in the hole, and
That makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
that's cool.
So that was like kind of like one start of it. So hockey in Canada, and who knows where it originated for real, but hockey in Canada actually originated in Scotland, Nova Scotia, New Scotland. If you want to be per definition, in Nova Scotia. So if you think about it, they played golf. They came over to Nova Scotia. The Scottish people from the Nova Scotia started playing golf on the ice, basically. Like, I'm butchering it a little bit. All right, and so then 1866. Combination of that and lacrosse was a very similar game.
Okay,
right?
so it went from like the winter golf,
Yeah.
and then maybe combining lacrosse rules or rules that came from like the stick and ball game from Egypt Syria situation. Like that's where they kind of started to meet up.
Nope.
No?
Yeah, kind of. But James Creighton came over, and he was a rugby.
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 Interesting.
So now, if you think about it, the rules of the game make sense as we go through some of the rules. So it was in 1866 in Nova Scotia, the first skate was like, as they were on the ice, they were realizing that, okay, we can maybe get around better. And the Star Skate Company, I think, started making blades that attach to your feet so you can move around the ice a little bit more. So James Creighton started like the rules of hockey. Like, it wasn't official yet, but they started with rules. So he designed the first sort of game that was played with rugby rules. So you had the puck in the thing. So some of the rules in hockey at the time were, well, what's rugby? It's all backward passing. So that, remember I said earlier about forward passing?
Right.
Couldn't do forward passing because the original rules of hockey were backward passing and then contact. So it was like a very violent game. So like the natives in Canada. So now let's go back a little bit. So these guys are playing, talk about hockey sticks and stuff like that. You don't really think about this. What did you use as a hockey stick? Right?
Yeah.
So the ball was probably too bouncy or whatever. So they made out of horse shit for the first little bit.
Make it
right?
flat.
Yeah, make it
so
flat.
doesn't
Like
bounce.
probably frozen horse shit, something like that. And then evolved into pucks somehow. And I didn't get to that stuff. But hockey sticks, they said, and the name hockey itself comes from, there's a couple different things. One comes from ice hurley. That would be a Scottish thing.
Okay.
Another one would be come from the lacrosse. Like, it comes from the word lacrosse because it's made out of the stick, and I can't pronounce the name, but it's close to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another tree that they used to make the hockey sticks from. That it sounded something like hockey. So one of those three blended into named hockey stick. Hockey stick became hockey.
Right.
So am I all over or what?
You're a little.
Oh,
over,
I know.
But it's okay. So
yeah,
so it went from Scotland, kind of winter golf or ice golf or whatever, and then there was some kind of influence that the southern from like Syria, Middle East kind of games,
Ball and stick
games.
Naked.
That naked came together. It's important.
Yeah.
So they kind of came together. Then this rugby influence kind of came on.
Yes.
So it went from an individual like winter golf game to like a passing game with the stick and ball game idea.
And
then
somewhere in between, somewhere in that frame, they didn't just say, okay, let's just play a rugby.
Right.
They were like you're in Canada, you're on the rivers, you're on the fields that freeze. So the stick and ball games became something that was done on the ice.
Right, exactly.
Right? So like not with 5 aside, it would be like
this huge mess of pond hockey.
Yeah.
It's just like a big pond hockey game of a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was kind of a combination of golf, rugby, whatever other stick and ball game, and lacrosse.
Yes.
Kind of like a combination of all that.
Yes.
And then you were telling me earlier the kind of the violence of the game. So we could get some of the rules from combining those games. But then you wanted to say something about like the violence of the game, or
the violence of it was like
how there's hitting and fighting and like all that.
Yeah, so
stuff.
that's rugby.
Yeah.
Rugby is all about scrums. So if you look at the origins of hockey, like it would have been like all these people on the ice, and it would have been like, because it's always going backwards. If you look at a rugby game, there's all these scrums all over the place. So that's how hockey actually originates. It was always moving the puck back. You had to actually stick hand a little bit because you couldn't get up the ice without doing that. So you'd have to come back, and there'd be a lot of hitting. And then there was like a bit of a crossover with lacrosse. So lacrosse is a beautiful game in itself, but the origins of it is just battle. That's what they were. They were actually battles. It wasn't like 10 guys aside. It'd be one tribe against another tribe, and there could be hundreds or 500 people playing in the big field. And when we talk about battle, it was about you win and you scalp a guy and you kill them to death. And at best, if you were lucky, you got a good beating. But it was a violent game. Rugby is a violent game. So then when this guy invented the skates, like they're playing this game and they were like, on the ice it could be better. Someone made the blades for this skates.
Right.
So now the game became just a little bit different. It became a little bit faster. It became a little bit more interesting. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
you
had a question?
No, I was just gonna say I'm having a thought right now. It's just it's so interesting how it aligns kind of with how like evolution works, like evolution of people and whatever. And it's a much shorter time frame, obviously. But I'm just thinking of the concept of games and like humans have been playing to some degree, whatever play means, for forever, and other animals do it too, other species do it too, like the concept of playing. But then turning into something like a team versus team game, that I'm sure, because you were talking about how lacrosse started from being battles, right? And it probably, this is just total speculation, but probably like evolving out of the idea of war, us versus you.
100%.
And then instead of it being a to the death thing, it's like, well, we don't actually have to kill each other, and it's still fun, you know? And maybe it kind of went out of that into like my tribe versus your tribe, and now my team versus your team, or I'll take a few of these guys, you take a few of those guys, and we'll kind of play this game and not actually have to kill each other. I bet you that could be the origin of a whole bunch of different sports.
For sure.
You know, it's all probably very similar because it comes from, at some point, you're going back to tribal humans, human nature, battle. That is what competition, you know, we have to compete for survival. We have to compete for whatever. And it's funny how it evolved out of that to now we still get so much enjoyment. And it's amazing how attached people get to these games, whatever sport it is, or whatever you're watching. It's like so deeply ingrained for us to enjoy watching competition.
Yeah.
And it's got to stem from that like survival mechanism of we need to win so we survive kind of thing. Yeah. So that's my speculation on anyways.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
So interesting how you can feel yourself. Even so, when Charlie got in his fight with Cully there from Windsor, right away, it's like something inside you just turns on.
It's there,
and
man.
It's like you feel like the intensity, the emotion, the adrenaline. So my Christine was with me and my mom, and both of them are like almost in tears watching, and it's like he's fine. They're just going at it like it's fine, but they're yelling and screaming and like getting all hyped up into it and whatever. And it's just funny how naturally that comes to anyone who's watching any sport,
100%.
whatever you pick your poison of what sport you like. But it's so interesting how that's the case, and it's a game. It means nothing. It doesn't matter,
right?
You know. but it just actually ends up mattering so much.
Yeah.
You know, it's so cool.
Well, so but part of the thing is when people played, it was just a play thing, and then it became more of a elitist thing because what was it? I think it was. I wrote down what it cost. It was sticks were 45. So there's the company that made the blades also started making sticks because they think about it, right? You want to play the game. Like this is where it starts from, right? They go out and find a tree and find good branches. That's how first, good, long enough. They weren't hockey sticks; they were
it's like
branches.
making tools, right?
Yeah. And then someone got the idea of taking it from this, whatever the name of that tree is. It sounds like hockey a little bit, and they said it really smelled like it had a really stench to it.
Yeah.
So then you had different carvers, and they used to make these hockey sticks from these trees. So like now you're taking basically a piece of lumber, going out and play some hockey, right? And then the stick would be dependent on the carver, right? Because we're not talking about factories that make 100,000 sticks in a couple of weeks or whatever. It's like a guy carving them out, and it was special. So now it costs a little bit of money. So for buck, was it a buck 20 cents, 45 cents, whatever. So it's a buck 20, I think. You could got a pair of like the blades and a stick to go play hockey outside.
So I just looked up the tree.
Yeah.
Is this right? It says sticks were made from birch and hornbeam trees.
Maybe it was hornbeam. Yeah.
And
hornbeam. Yeah, hornbeam. Yeah.
Yeah, birch used from hornbeam trees.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so maybe that hornbeam, lacrosse. There was a word with lacrosse, and maybe that's what came out to hockey.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the originator because that's a stupid word. Hockey. Yeah. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that it came from the actual stick is where the name came from.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
That's really cool.
It's so cool.
I know. Freaking humans,
so cool.
man.
Yeah.
So cool.
So then it just evolves, man. It just evolves and evolves and evolves. So the first actual game was Creighton or Stanley. Okay. So anyways, the first official hockey game was March 3rd, 1875 in Montreal. First official hockey game. And no forward passing and all that kind of stuff. And the first game was Montreal, whatever, against whatever. They played at the first rink with some people watching. Violent as all hell. Yeah. But it sparked some interest. So that's where Lord Stanley came in. Mm-hmm. Then he decided to have an exhibition at this Winterfest in Montreal, where they had a couple teams that would play against each other, and people started watching it. Just like, oh, neat sport, because there was other sports that were new and all this kind of stuff. And then the Stanley decided to have the cup, the Dominion Cup, which is now the Stanley Cup, and it was the bowl, and he made it. I think it was, forget what the price was, but it was like $20 to make this cup. And how the Stanley Cup was given out is anybody can challenge the winner the next year to play in a series or whatever to win the cup across Canada, which evolved, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's people that are actually getting into watching the game, like slowly but surely. Yeah. And then at some point, the National Hockey League, National Hockey Association starts, and hockey's played all over the place, and it's an actual real important part of our culture in Canada. It defines us in a lot of ways.
Like that's so interesting.
So it starts from Scotland, Egypt, Greece, Scotland, to Nova Scotia, to Montreal. Yeah. And Montreal is really important because it was the biggest city in Canada at the time. It was like, if you could do it in Montreal, you could do it anywhere. Right. And so it's just like, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And then money started coming in because people were making money, like a lot of betting and stuff like that on who would make the thing. And then the players at one point said, whoa, we're the ones doing it. Why is everyone else making all the money? Yeah. So it evolved from there, and it's like absolutely incredible.
So you mentioned the culture thing. So now that it is where it is now, do you think, and like culture is constantly changing, but because it's such like a deeply ingrained part of, especially in Canada, do you think, talking about old time hockey and how like that's the game and whatever, just what you think, doesn't matter, there's not a right answer, but like, do you think it'll ever be kind of stop the progression, like the game will be too far gone from what it was, kind of thing? Do you ever think like there'll be a stick in the spokes of the evolution to keep it more like the game, or do you think it'll just continually evolve and get? Because so what I'm thinking, the reason I'm asking the question is because especially as technology keeps progressing, it will become less and less like hockey, originally, right?
Dude,
Just as it has from when the game was first established,
okay,
right?
just 1 second,
Yeah.
okay? You're talking. Well, the first. What did I say? The first game was
Yeah.
official game.
1875.
1875. How
Yeah.
long is that?
Yeah.
It's less than, like the game is like went from 0 to knocking balls around.
Yeah, and
on the
150.
ice
Yeah, that's right.
to having the first game to the technology it is now is 100%. I have no idea, but like if you think of how much it's changed in 100 years, well, 100 years, yeah, 1910, it started to become the National Hockey League in around there.
Right.
And will it change? But what I think is going to change it, I think people can't afford it.
I like this.
That's
talk.
really
Yeah.
what I think it's going to be. It's
Yeah.
like it's sad, man. It's because you just go back in those roots and you go like everybody played,
Mhm.
everybody could play hockey, and then it became a real thing, and then became a pro league and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But like everyone's making money off of it.
Mhm.
Everybody's charging money. That just to play hockey is ridiculous. Like, and I'm being honest, if I didn't have like the sponsors that I had for my business, there would have been times where I was saying, Charlie, you can't break any more sticks. I'm gonna have to buy you a piece of like that old birchwood from 1812.
Yeah.
Because I can't afford this, man.
Right.
The skates now are $1,000.
Yeah. More. Yeah.
And if your kid, so one of the tips that I would give people is I've always done this with Charlie because he's not going to wear out his skates as a kid, and but he might outgrow them. And you didn't need the top of the line stuff. So I would always buy him like a year or two old, not used,
Yeah,
but
that's what I
old.
did too. Yeah, my dad did the same
instead of spending $500, I'd spend 2 or 1. But the skates, if you're getting like the good skates, you're well over $1,000 for a pair of skates.
For sure.
What if you have 3 kids? You can't afford
So
it
you're not playing hockey.
unless
Yeah.
you're loaded.
When you see it when you if you watch the Olympics or whatever, when
Yeah.
people are coming from developed nations or developing nations,
Mhm.
none of them are playing hockey.
You can't.
There's no money. What are they good at? They're good at soccer.
Yeah.
They're good at basketball. They're good
Yeah.
at running. They're
Yeah.
good at things that are very low cost
Yeah.
because it's more affordable. And that's my one huge criticism of hockey is it is becoming just that. Like you said, it became elitist. It's the same thing now. It's
Yeah.
becoming elitist. You know, when the price of wood was super cheap and everyone could buy 38 hockey sticks because
Yeah.
they're made of wood we have plenty of.
Yeah.
Well, now one stick is going to be $350, man. It's like who's buying that?
That's a good deal.
And it's-
$350. now.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's such a great game, so fun, and you're not allowed to play unless you have the money to play. Even like the registration costs and stuff to
Yeah.
play now. It's like how's that reasonable? Like why is
My
that the way it
brother-in-law
is?
was telling me for girls hockey, his son or his daughter, his daughter plays girls hockey, so she's a year younger than Charlie. He said the registration was $4,800.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't understand where it all goes. And I go,
Yeah.
well, figure it out.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Like $4,800. If you have a couple more kids, if you have 3 kids play, it's $15,000 just to allow you to play. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
But maybe it does.
I know.
Maybe it does. But I think so. That's what I think is the number one thing is. So just from a youth hockey level, I would say money will change it a lot. People can't afford it. Number 2, the money combined with all the all the shit you have to do to play hockey. So what I mean by that is I had to take courses this past. I didn't have to. I did it because of the COVID thing, and there was a little bit of rules. And then I coached this. So listen, if you want to coach hockey right now, you have to take a course on how to be I'm using terms here, right? Respect in sport. So that's an online course. You have to take a course in gender identity. So you're not speaking like all these courses. And when I look at that, like it's about 7 hours minimum of stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I just want to coach hockey.
yeah, that's right.
It's for like a couple people that
Yeah.
maybe, and it protects
It's
the
all
world.
this fluff
But it's
around
like,
the edges. Yeah,
I just want to play, and the kids have to take these, basically take these, sign these papers and all this stuff about treating people fairly. Yes, we're gonna treat them fair, man.
Yeah.
Like, but so
it's just
I
another
could see-
barrier to entry. Like there's all these
Right.
barriers to be able to
Right.
do it. Yeah,
and then all the obstacles just to play. Like I said this before. Like I think actually maybe if I was a kid, there is a possibility I'd just rather play video games because it just seems more exciting. you know, in a way. So I think that with all the political stuff on the side, which I know like someone might say, well, you're not very sensitive, and I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine. It's just I'm being honest.
Well, okay, but
I'm being honest.
pause on that for a second because
Sure.
you actually are though.
What?
Because you actually are you're sensitive to how to treat kids. You're not
Of course, humans.
yeah, you're a human, right? Of course. And this is my whole beef with all the extra stuff. Like we're talking about all the barriers to entry to be able to play, to be able to coach, to be involved in the game. You have to do all these things.
And its parent has to do a course.
It's all like just turns into like this bureaucratic stupid shit, cover your ass type stuff. Yeah.
All it is.
And it's just like, why do we like, of course we're treating the kids fair. Of course. And some people don't do that, but you think if they take the course, it's going to make them?
No.
It's like, no, it's not, right? That's not what it's going to do. People are going to click through the links while it plays in the background of their day and take the 5-question quiz at the end of the chapter that anyone with half a brain can answer. And it's just BS. It's a bunch of crap. Yeah. So if you're a dad or a mom that wants to go coach or get involved, now you have to do all this crap. It's going to take up 8 hours of your day or a week or whatever. It's like, I don't want to do that. Like, let somebody else do it.
So you've got that, and then you've got like, okay, so and listen, man, this is good. This is a good thing, but if you're coaching, you have to be so aware of everything that's not hockey. For example, you're supposed to never have just one in a room. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Or one adult in the room with all the kids. Like, to some degree, like, yeah, that makes sense because you don't ever want anything to happen. Like, you don't ever want anything to happen. There are people like that out there, right? But they make it like for every person, everything. It's like you're always looking. Don't say that word. Don't go into that room without that person there. And it's always covering something else. It's like, don't say anything that could be misconstrued as something else. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's an endless chase. Like you can never cover everything.
And they always add more.
And you just keep adding more and more and more. And at a certain point, and this is something we talk about a lot too, it's just like that resiliency piece. It's like, hey, sometimes shit's gonna go wrong and you need to be able to deal with that. And outside of the super serious criminal or like something that's incredibly damaging to kids or to parents or to whoever, those things are easy to cover. It's easy to make rules for those things, and we have rules for those things. But it's like you keep stretching it further and further and further. Oh, and we have to make a statement about this thing, and we have to make a statement about this thing, and we have to make sure everyone can be included this way and that way and this way. And it's like you're 75
meetings to start a hockey game.
Oh,
like to start a hocky season. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it takes 40. The game starts at 7:05, but it doesn't actually start till 7:28 because we have to do all of these procedural things to start every night. And it's like it makes it unenjoyable, and it makes the barrier to entry more and more. You know, so that's another element of it. And then the other one I was going to point out too is just the technology of how that can change the game. Like you look at the sticks, the skates, like what the guys are wearing now, and how efficient all of this stuff is. Like at what point are we going to have like levitating skates that guys are just humming around on with less effort?
Here's one for you. Dalton Prout and I were talking about this yesterday because we were talking about Charlie's game, and he goes, man, it's hard to find. He goes, there's a lot of vanilla out there because he scouts pro scout, right? He goes, it's hard to find a kid like that because guy that'll throw a few hits, getting a tussle here and there, and be able to play. He goes, they're hard to find. They stick out like a sore thumb. He goes, you think about it. He goes, it's a lot of vanilla out there, but guys you got to play. Like, it's such a fast game now. It's so fast because equipment's lighter. Guys are stronger, better shape. Like physically, people have evolved like to be better athletes. So it's so fast. So like the guy that is a grinder, or not a grinder, like a power forward, let's say, or a big heavy D, you got to lose 10 pounds to be quick enough. So now can you play that heavy game the way you used to play? Right. So it changes, right? Yeah, a little bit. Yep. So if you're throwing 4 hits or 3 hits or 2 hits at every shift, like good hard hits, wears you out. Like hitting's hard on the body, and it tires you out. So now it kind of changes that because it's so many fast guys. Like, it's got to be played at such a fast pace that the big power guy can't throw that many hits, or he gets wear himself out. Yeah. But the interesting thing was we have our whoop. Mm-hmm. So he was saying that Boone Jenner for Columbus, he had, because he's the captain, they were asking, should we make it mandatory for everybody to have a whoop? They thought about it, and he goes, well, I kind of getting personal now. You know what I mean? Like, because this reports back to your team, They get to look at all your data. Oh, you went to bed at 2 last night. Whoa, your recovery is not the best because you must have been out drinking.
Yeah.
That's none of your business.
Yeah, you're making robots now. Yeah.
So my next question was, when's the chip out? And it's if it's not already, the chip to track everything that you do on the ice, your heart rate, the speed, maybe it's like wherever technology takes you, it might be seeing for you. Like it might be able to do a scouting analysis, say like getting in your eyes and seeing your head, and why are you thinking that way? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's going to change.
Well, this is kind of what I'm getting at. The reason that games are interesting is because of human error, because it's human, right? It's a human game, so there's mistakes, you know, and the more you perfect how people are playing the game, the less interesting it becomes. Because now, and I've said this multiple times to you, I enjoy watching OHL games more than I like watching NHL games because the OHL kids, they're just that, they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. So you'll go and see a 9-2 game, or you'll go and see a 9-8 game, or you'll see whatever interesting, crazy plays happen because some kid made a stupid mistake that no NHL player will ever make because if they do, they're out.
Well, do you see what they do in the NHL? Like even the OHL? Because the Jumbotrons they're all electronic. So a goal, a play, as soon as a shift is over, everyone goes to the Jumbotron.
Yeah, watch the
replay.
Yeah.
Watch the NHL. It's so funny. Guys get off the ice.
Yeah, and
iPad.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't even have time to forget about it. It's like it's there in your face. Do that. No, that's where you screwed up. And that's where you did well.
But that's like I'm fine with that as long as it's still like human. Like the game is still played by humans, and like what you're pointing out you're talking about Boone Jenner when he's talking about, well, I don't know if we should all have this. It's like you're trying to make everyone the same.
That's right.
We're optimizing performance. Like now it's about the numbers, right? And that's where it gets different. Like when you're focused, it's like, you know, we've talked about like the analytics guys before. It's like we identify these patterns. We have to do this to get this outcome. Like I can see the pattern, right? And it's taking out the humanness.
Well, they did it with the NHL with the video replay.
That's right. Yeah.
The cameras in the nets. There's 7,000 million cameras in the arena to get every angle of everything. They tried it with the offside. It got to the point where a guy was skating is it offside if his foot is up in the air? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, let the guy make a call. Right. Sometimes it's going to be right. Sometimes it's going to be wrong.
That's the beauty of it.
Beer thrown on you. That's hockey. Back to the old days. Back to the old rings. But it's like, from at some point, why would you need a ref?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah. As the game continues to progress, it's going to get so stagnant that they're going to have to make a bunch of rule changes. Yeah. And in the same way they did, when did they take out like the hooking and the 2-line pass and whatever?
Let me go through a few things. Okay. It might be boring, but it might not be. It's kind of interesting. Cool. I just took some. There's because I could be like, and then one day, once upon a time, they added rubber pucks that weighed 6 ounces. Like so, 1910, 3 periods changed from having 2 periods of hockey. 1911 and 12. This is National Hockey League now.
Yeah.
Okay. NHL rules where it was an official game. 6 players on the ice from 7. So goalie and 6 players. 1917, goalies were allowed to fall. Previously, it was a penalty if they fell to the ice.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's cool.
So this is where when you look back, wow, I didn't know that. So that's cool because now
I'm saying about
stand-up goalies.
Yeah.
When then they started to turn into being butterfly goalies, right?
Well, no, not even yet.
Yeah, not even yet.
Yeah,
but that's the start of being allowed
to fall.
That's so interesting. Not allowed to fall. It would be
a penalty.
Wow.
Right? 1918, 2 lines were painted on the ice, 20 feet from the center ice. So 3 playing zones were created a 40-foot neutral zone for forward passing because forward passing was permitted at that time.
Yeah.
So this is what? 1918. I got to change sides here.
Yeah.
I got to actually do something else with my life. Where was I? 1918?
Yeah. 2-line pass.
Yeah, so forward passing was that's the neutral zone was where forward passing was permitted. Kicking the puck was permitted now in this zone, in the neutral zone. Started calculating assists in 1918, so it wasn't actually a point unless you scored. So 1921, goalies were allowed to pass the puck to the blue line. Minor penalties were 2 minutes from 3 minutes, and there's a whole bunch in between. These are the ones that just kind of caught my eye. 1925, to encourage offense, no more than 2 D permitted to remain inside the zone when the puck left the D zone. So you couldn't have 2 people, because I guess people used to hang back, right? Because it was all forward.
Right.
You couldn't, no forward passing. Teams could only dress 12 players. No big deal. 1927. That's when I was born. Forward passes were allowed in the D zone and neutral zone. So now 2 now.
Yeah.
3 20-minute periods were brought in, and then you had to change ends every period.
So cool, man.
So you're talking about, like, will it change? Like, that's 17 years. That's huge change. It's not the same game now.
Well, right.
From when it started.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But because the only difference now is because it's such a huge entertainment thing.
Yeah.
The driver is always going to be the money,
Yep.
right? Which is if people are watching and it's not interesting anymore,
That's right.
because it's so stagnant,
Yeah.
then there's going to be another like drastic
That's
set
right.
of rule changes
That's
to
right.
bring it back to where it's exciting.
Well, they did that with the trapezoid behind the net,
Right.
because Marty Brodeur used to control the game as a goalie, Ron Hextall and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are things that are more modern, but they're huge.
Yeah.
So 1927. So 1928, forward passes allowed in all 3 zones. So now it's starting to look like hockey now.
Yeah.
Right before, it would have looked like rugby. So you could see the violence, right?
Yeah.
So when I was reading and watching this stuff, they were saying that there was a lot of deaths in hockey because it was violent.
Yeah.
Guys would club you over the head.
Oh, yeah.
It was a violent sport. So we look at it now, it's not as violent. It's violent.
Yeah.
But it's not even close to what it was, because it was all scrums and just clubbing guys.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, you're a tough man.
The stick work.
The one guy they were talking about was One-Eyed McGee, because he was a pretty good player. That guy sounds tough.
Yeah.
One-Eyed McGee.
One-eyed.
Yeah.
That was his name.
One-Eyed McGee. Yeah, imagine playing One-Eyed McGee. Change in appearance. Okay, 1926, forward passes allowed in all 3 zones. Goalies forbidden to hold the puck, so they had to throw it. 1929, offside. New rule. Offside. That's a game changer.
Game changer. Yep.
Right? Only 3 players allowed in the D zone, including goalie. I don't really understand that one. Visible time clocks were required in every rink.
Oh, cool. That's undercover game changer for sure.
Yeah. 1937, icing is introduced.
Interesting.
See, you think it's always there.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't a rule when it started, right? Center red line introduced in 1943. No red line before.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have 17 players plus a goalie in 49. 69 curves. They started curving sticks, and they were limited to 1 inch.
Yeah.
1979. This is a big one. You ready?
Yeah.
Let me think of someone for Craig McTavish.
Okay.
Know him?
Yeah.
What about him?
He didn't wear a helmet.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Sick.
1979, wearing helmets were mandatory for players entering the NHL.
Right.
So remember, guys?
And I remember because you would start to see the phase out where it's similar with visors now, right?
Visors now.
If you didn't have one, you don't have to put one on.
Zach
But now,
and Dalton were the ones that were the last year that they
last year
didn't have to put a visor on.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the last one I put that is kind of relevant. It was really relevant to me. Was in 2005. The red line eliminated for 2-line passes. So remember, I told you that when I played, it was it's a different game.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I said. I said in one of the podcasts, I said the game now, from even when I played, it's not unrecognizable, but it's like so different.
Yeah.
Because we had the red line. So, neutral zone trapping. We did, like, the coaches were too stupid to think of anything like that. But neutral zone trapping, you had to make.
Well, I had the red line when I started playing. Yeah.
I guess you
when I
would've.
started playing, we still had the red line. It was the red line and the stick work.
Yeah.
You could hooking, for example, you couldn't. It was only hooking if you like grabbed them and held on.
Yeah, you took his head off.
You could do little pulls, and that wasn't hooking yet.
Clutching and grabbing. Yeah.
And that all I remember that when I was a kid. When I first started playing travel, that was still a thing.
Yeah.
And then it got phased out. By the time I was like 12 or 13, it was gone now.
Yeah.
But I remember it being there because I remember a guy I used to play with. That was like I have like vivid memories of him. He was the hook guy.
Yeah.
My age, and he was just like give guys little tugs and pulls and whatever, and it was cool. I remember that change happening.
Yeah.
The 2-line pass was huge. You can do Hey Lottie now.
Yeah. But like
you can throw the long bombs.
It opened up the speed of the game.
Right.
And but you think about like what type of players, like that's why can't ever say, well, you can say Gretzky's the best, this guy's the best, Bobby Orr's the best, but it's like totally different hockey. So they're the best at the time. Like, dude, we used to when I played junior, it was like that's why you used to have big plugs out there, and it would be you'd be in small
Yeah, there's no
spaces, and
space.
you
Yeah,
just
big
it
and
was
get in the way.
clutch, grab, hack, whack,
Yeah.
and skating was important, but it wasn't the importantest.
Yeah.
Like no, it was very important still. You had to be a very good hockey player, but sometimes it was just the bigger man won.
Well, and side note on that, I got into a little back and forth exchange with somebody who commented because we were talking about, I don't know if it was who the best player was or whoever. Anyways, and people always argue about like who the best player is, which is a non-starter. First of all, there's no comparison. You can't make it from different eras. You can't compare.
How do you do it?
But my argument about that is always whoever the best players were at the time would still be the best players today because they did whatever it took to be the best player of the time.
Yeah,
so
probably.
if you go Gretzky today, assuming he was at the peak of the practicing methods and training methods of the time and whatever it was.
Yeah.
If you put him here, he would have done the same thing. He would have been at
relatively,
right? He would have
maybe not 215 points one year, but maybe
he would have been a top player.
Yeah, he would have been
because they would do the same thing as they did with what the tools they have now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but that's an interesting separate question.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. So it'll be interesting to see what the next set of like big changes to the game is, because that's what I see going forward is that same stagnation of where it's not as interesting to watch anymore. Because everything moves, like especially with all the systems and stuff now, everything moves as one. Yeah, it's like one move around.
Here's a question for you: is people say it's a softer game now? Like they eliminated fighting. Like not eliminated, but it looks like it's trying to go.
Yeah, right.
But like when you go back now to the origins of the game, it's the game.
Yeah,
it's the game, but it's so fast and stuff now. And I made an argument and I'm not complaining about it. I said this the other day on that podcast I did with those people. It's like Dave Branch with the CHL. He's made so many, like as a player you hate his guts because he makes all these rules and he suspends people and he makes the rules of the OHL, CHL. Yeah. But he's put so many rules in that were so good for the game. But my question would be, he went down to like you couldn't fight more than 10 times a year per person, and then it went down to 8, and then he dropped it to 3 with exceptions, like if you're instigated upon, but you start getting fined and suspended, right? So it's like, I was like, this is so dumb, but it was actually way better for the game. But what I saw, in my opinion, you take away those old rinks, you put them in the new barns. You put you add all the systems, and you take away the fighting, which people love. When Charlie got in that fight, it was a good game.
Yep.
A little quiet. The two guys dropped the mitts, slashed each other, dropped the mitts, and everybody was on their feet, freaking out.
Yes.
And that's what's missing. So, do I want to pay? Well, I don't know what the price is. 15, 20, 30. Some rinks are $40 for a ticket, plus $8 for a beer, and $6 for all this stuff to watch something that I'm not jumping out of my seat.
Sit quietly and pay attention.
I'm not doing it.
Same here.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Right.
But if it was my era, 80s, early 90s, 70s, whatever, they used to jam pack the place. And attendance has gone down.
I was just about to bring that up because
I don't blame them.
And
cost money. And,
I was going to say caveat of the COVID.
Yeah.
Because that's still happening.
Yeah, that helped. Yeah.
But at the same time, like when we went to watch that game in Windsor, the last time I went to a game was just after the Memorial Cups with in 2008, 9, 10 ish.
Yeah, those are yours.
And and there was not a seat.
No, you couldn't find
that
a
place.
Seat. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's because it's that competitive nature, like the tempers and the emotion, and that is what makes it engaging to watch. You take that out, which you can see it. That's what is happening now.
Yeah.
And I'm not as inclined to be invested in the game anymore, right? Because it's not as interesting to watch. I'd rather, and that's what's interesting about one of the most popular sports to watch right now. Maybe I'm misspeaking. I don't think I am. Those UFC.
I love it,
and it's extremely popular to watch.
Yeah,
and it might be one of the most popular sports to watch right now. And
I can see it. I love it.
Even if it's in the top 5, it's like, why is that?
Because there's something about two men going in a cage with 55,000 people. They're basically naked, beating each other's head off their shoulders. I don't want that for my son.
You feel the emotion of it. Like you feel the drive and the adrenaline. Like you're watching two people in there kicking the crap out of each other, and it's what you signed up for. If you're going to this sport, and that's that's part of the game in hockey.
Yeah.
Is I like that element of, yes, it's dangerous. Yes, you can get hurt. Yes, is it the best for your brain if you're getting clunked in the head? No, it's not actually.
Yeah.
But you're picking to play this sport, and this is part of the game.
Yeah.
And that trade-off is a decision that you should be allowed to make. It shouldn't be taken because now that level of emotion and that involvement or that attachment that you feel watching the game is gone.
Yeah.
Because now it's just you sit quietly in your seat and watch the skill. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what gets you jumping out of your seat.
No.
Right. It's always when something unexpected happens, whether it's a big
hit.
play or a big hit or a fight or whatever. Those are the moments, you know, and that's what's interesting about it. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Do you want to leave it there?
why? Because I have to go pee.
I do too. Yeah, I got to pee too.
You know.
So hopefully that's interesting. So we'll leave it there.
I hope people enjoyed that. It was I'm gonna actually go with Charlie because he's home for a couple days with his injury, and so tomorrow I'm gonna spend a lot of the day with him, and I'm gonna show him some of the history stuff, and it'll probably go, "Wow, Dad!
Yeah,
wow." Because we all think about it, like, where did it start from? This is crazy.
Yeah, and to actually learn
when you're actually going through a documentary or two, it's like, and maybe it's 98% right and whatever, but phenomenal.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, dude.
leave it there.
Okay, goodbye.